Hey everybody, welcome to the lesson here at THSS Technology. Today we're going to jump back into Godot with another quick lesson. We're going to look at UI today, user interface. And so let's get kind of a current look at our game and what's going on here. So we have our hero here, nice and relatable, doing his thing. And as he's moving around, he's going to be collecting goat skulls, obviously. So he jumps on the goat skulls, gives him a little crush. Everything is all looking good here, okay? So what I want to do is I want to add a very simple little counter that's going to track how many goat skulls our hero has collected. So let's get started. So there's a lot of different ways to implement UI, and we're going to teach you a few different lessons over the next couple of weeks. We're going to keep it really simple today. Now, this isn't always the preferred way to do a UI, but we're going to go the simplest way, and we might modify that in future lessons. So the other day I just made a very simple little goat skull object, just an area 2D, animated sprite, collision shape, and a timer on it. If you're interested in that, you can just look back on our lesson on pickups. With some minor modifications, you can kind of get this done. All right, and we have our player object here, and our player has the standard effects on that, previous videos on that also if you're interested. But we're going to add our UI onto the player itself. That way, wherever the player goes, the UI follows. This isn't always best practice, but it's a good simple way to get started while we learn how UI works. So I'm going to select my player root object there. We're going to press Control A, and we're going to start by adding a control node. Okay, this is going to kind of be like a box that's going to contain all the elements inside of our UI. I'm just going to hit F2 to rename that. And we're just going to call this UI. And in this control box here, we can put different elements later, like health bars, points, timers, all of these different elements that we're going to be tracking across our game. Perfect. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a very simple UI element as a background color. Now this is just placeholder, it's a work in progress. Later I plan on replacing this with some art that gets done in pixel art, in Sprite there. So we're going to hit Control A, and we're going to add something called a color rectangle. Let's just zoom in here so you can kind of see our color rect. And we're going to take this color rect and we're just going to drag it to the top left-hand corner of our screen and kind of stretch it out like that. So if I go back to my game now and play my game, you're going to notice I have a color rect there. But it's staying on the top left-hand corner because it's being bound there. However, it's kind of going behind our levels there. Okay, so we want to make sure that it is rendering that color rectangle first before it renders, because we don't want to lose track of our UI behind the game world. Okay, so we're going to go to our color rect here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the ordering tab here on the right-hand side, and we're going to change its Z index, okay? And I'm going to give that a Z index of 5. I'm going to make a lot of our UIs around that 5 range. So now when I go to play, you're going to see our UI is on top of our world, stuck on the honey, on top of our world there. Perfect. Okay, so let's go back to our player here. I really don't like that color, so we can just kind of change this in the color rect here. We can add some color there. We can go for a nice pink or something like that. That would look good. Nice high contrast. We can get into color theory in a later lesson. All right, so I'm going to click back in my UI here. We're going to press Control A to add another node, and we're going to add a simple label. Okay, and we're going to take our label and we're going to put it up here in the corner. Okay, so we got a color rect, we got our label. Now the label, we want to change the ordering on the label also, and our color rect was ordering on 5, so we're going to make the label ordering it on 6. So we're going to see the label before we see the color rect, okay? Now if I just go in here and type, skulls, because we're collecting goat skulls here, and I go and play the game, can't really see anything. It's probably just due to a sizing issue, but we have kind of skulls kind of written out over there, okay? So it is writing the word skulls in there. It's just not really showing up right now. Actually, you can see it there. It's following my player for some odd reason. So let's go back and see if we can get that fixed there. Okay, I'm not happy with that. There's our color rect. There's our label. I don't know why this is putting it up there. So let's kind of put that up there. Now we can stretch this box out however you want. And there is skulls written in there. Let's do one more test to make sure everything's good. Perfect. Little mistake, but we fixed that up. Okay, so it's saying skulls there in our box. We'll talk about how to make that cleaner and look nicer later. Okay, but I don't want it to actually type anything. I want to be able to control what the label says with code. And that's kind of the point of our lesson for today. So I'm going to, under label script here, we're going to add it under label object here, sorry. I'm going to attach a script, and I'm going to make sure this goes into my scripts folder, and I'm going to call this, I don't know, let's just, call it goat skulls. Doesn't really matter, call it whatever you like. And I'm going to call it goat skulls. I'm going to click create, and it's going to open up our scripts folder here. We'll leave the ready and the process in for now. We're not only going to use the process for now, but you might want to use the ready later to set it to a default value of 0 when the script loads and level changes and all that type of stuff. But I'll leave that up to you to figure out and play with. So what do we need to do here? Well, in the process, what we can do is we can do something called self, okay? Self's going to grab the actual object this is attached to, and we're going to do self dot text. And it's going to grab the text function, which is over here on the right in our label, and now we can make some changes to that. And we're going to make that equal to a string. Remember, a string is just a series of numbers or letters or any commands. It's just going to print exactly what you just say. And anytime we use a string, we need to use quotation marks, and we can just write, skulls collected, or whatever we really want that to say. Control S to save. Let's go play our game. And as you can see up there top, it now says skulls collected. Now, I didn't type anything in there. It's actually writing it in here, right? So anything we type in there, it is going to put up here in our texture box, on top of our texture box there, the text rect, okay? So awesome. So we know that this command line here works, but what I want to do is I want to be able to print how many skulls I've collected. So if I go to my goat skull object right here and go to the script that's actually on the goat skull, okay? You'll notice what I have is I got a bunch of stuff here. We have a timer. We got I'm grabbing my collision shape because I actually turned my collision shape off here. I have something here using my global variables again. We talked about global variables before the break, and global variables allow you to store information in a separate object that everything inside of Godot can access at any time. So if I go to my global variable script here in my scoring section, I created a variable called skull score, and I by default set it to 0. Okay, but in my goat skull script here, I notice I named that poorly too close to my other one. We'll maybe change that up later. I am grabbing my global variable script. Inside of that, I'm grabbing the skull score variable, and I'm adding 1 to that. So every time I enter the body of the goat skull, it's going to go to my global variables, grab the skull score, and add 1 to that variable, storing it inside of our global variables here. Okay, so if we go back to our goat skull script, that is going to be on my UI here, okay, this script right here. So instead of printing a number for the string, what we can do is we can say, global variables dot skull score. Okay, so all that's happening here now is the label is going to be constantly accessing our global variable script and looking at the skull scores variable, which is added to every time we pick up a skull. Okay, so now let's go play our game. And it should by default say 0, which it does there in the top left-hand corner. It's very small. We'll fix that in a bit. When I pick up 1, it goes to 1, and 2, 3, get my power up there. I'll have to change that graphic later. And then 4, hit the button, platform moves. Oh, missed it. Right, so it is tracking our skull scores accurately now, which is excellent. Okay, so let's go and just make this look a little bit nicer here. Later, like I said, I'll change this with Sprite. But for now, let's just keep it nice and simple. So in the label over here, we're going to go something called theme overrides. Okay, this allows us to change some basic information about the font and the label. You can change the colors, some of the constraints in between the lines and all that. You can drag in a font file in here if there's a specific font you want to use, font styles, and font sizes. So I'm going to say override the font size. And we can just try a number. Let's try 30. Hit play, see how that looks. That's actually not bad. We could probably make it a little bit bigger. So instead of 30, let's try 40. Hit play again now, see if that's a better size. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that size. But it just says the number now. It doesn't give us any indication of what that number means. So we can do that very simply here. So let's go back to our 2D rect here. And let's take our object here. Oops, something I wanted to do is go to our label, go to the move tool. And let's move our label off to the side here and down a little bit. And I'm going to go to my UI here, and I'm just going to add another label real quick. Let's call this label just label 2 for now. It's fine. And we're going to say skulls collected. Okay? And the reason why we're doing this is going to be a static object. Oh, we've got to change our ordering because we can't see it. This is going to be a static thing that's not necessarily going to change. So we can kind of just put that up there, and we can take that now, go to theme overrides, font sizes, override it to 1, and we can put that at 20. We can probably go a bit bigger than 30. And let's move it down to a little bit more centered. Now when we go and play our game, let's see how that looks. Skulls collected 0, 1, and so forth as it kind of ticks up. Okay, awesome. Pretty happy with that. Everything's looking good. We got a very simple but working UI. Great. I hope you found that useful, and we will see you all later.